One simple act of human kindness can transform lives in ways that defy imagination. What began as a chance encounter in a supermarket parking lot would become a journey of hope that neither Keanu Reeves nor a desperate mother could have foreseen. Her weariness was unmistakable, and the infant's weak whimpers pierced through the quiet emptiness of the lot. What Keanu does next will not only transform their existence but render you completely stunned. Before we proceed with this tale, share with us your location as you watch. If stories like this resonate with you, subscribe to our channel tomorrow. Brings another extraordinary story your way? Keanu Reeves exited the grocery store clutching a pair of shopping bags in one hand. The evening air was sharp, and a soft wind caused the surrounding trees to rustle quietly in the lot. He pulled up his jacket hood and surveyed his surroundings, a practiced response he'd cultivated through the years, perpetually aware yet never rushed. This behavior anchored him to the real world, even when camera flashes threatened to distort his reality. The day had been lengthy yet satisfying. Movie production had wrapped earlier than anticipated, giving him unexpected free time to handle mundane errands like grabbing dinner ingredients and reconnecting with ordinary life. He treasured these instances: parking areas, checkout queues, shopping trolleys. These simple rituals helped counterbalance fame's turbulence. Having completed his purchases, Keanu headed back to the lot. That's when something captured his focus. An aged vehicle, appearing decades old, sat isolated in a distant corner. The glass was clouded, and garments suspended inside swayed softly in the breeze. He wrinkled his brow. Something seemed amiss. At that instant, he spotted a woman maneuvering shopping carts to one side. Her clothing appeared shabby, and her darting glances revealed exhaustion mixed with anxiety. She seemed desperate to stay unnoticed while performing what looked like draining work. The realization struck immediately. His attention returned to the vehicle, now more alert to its particulars. The woman kept returning to that automobile as though it served as her refuge amidst turmoil. He couldn't stop wondering, could that car serve as her dwelling? The notion sent unease rippling through him. The world contained countless unspoken narratives, but this one, for unknown reasons, seemed to reach out to him. Resolute, Keanu moved forward cautiously. He wished to avoid alarming her, simply to comprehend and possibly assist. "Hello," he started, his tone gentle and caring. The woman, preparing to push another cart, halted abruptly. Her gaze met his momentarily before shifting away, as if avoiding sustained contact. "Are you all right? Is there something I might do to help?" he inquired, maintaining respectful space. "No, I'm managing, thank you," she answered, her voice distant yet not completely concealing her wariness. She retreated, clutching the cart firmly. Her rushed manner made clear she wanted this exchange to end. Keanu acknowledged this, recognizing that persistence might only push her further away. "Okay, I respect that. If you require anything, I'll be nearby." She remained silent. With hurried steps, she returned to the car, opening the door and sliding inside almost mechanically. Keanu remained stationary, observing as she settled into the driver's position. Then he witnessed it. Through the fogged glass, the outline of a tiny infant appeared, moving slightly in her embrace. He blinked, absorbing the scene, his chest constricted. He understood he couldn't simply leave. Something about this woman and child urged him to respond. As she adjusted the infant in her grasp, Keanu turned to depart, but the image remained burned in his thoughts. Upon reaching his vehicle, he cast one final glance toward the lot's far corner. The baby's silhouette remained visible. Keanu shut his eyes momentarily, allowing the situation's gravity to register. As he ignited the engine, one truth was undeniable: he wouldn't be able to dismiss what he'd just observed. The following morning, Keanu Reeves found himself returning to the identical grocery store. The previous day lingered in his thoughts. The image of the woman pushing carts, the tension across her shoulders, and the aged car with hanging clothes haunted him. He realized he could have overlooked it, but something about the circumstances wouldn't allow him to look away. Parking in his previous spot, he scanned the area. The car remained there in the same corner, its steamed windows and visible possessions unchanged. Several meters forward, he observed the woman again, this time carrying a plastic bag as she approached the vehicle. Keanu waited, watching from afar as she placed the bag in the rear seat. After she entered the car, he retrieved two items he'd brought from home: a bottle of spring water and a fresh blanket still in its wrapper. He knew any gesture required discretion, something that wouldn't make her feel vulnerable. He walked calmly to the car and positioned the items on the hood, ensuring they were clearly noticeable. Without uttering a word, he returned to his own car and waited. Minutes passed before the woman opened her door and peered at the hood. Her eyes focused on the items, and she glanced around as though trying to identify who had placed them there. Keanu stayed quiet, waiting for her to collect the items before her nerve faltered. Hesitating, she eventually grabbed the water bottle and blanket. He observed her lips moving as if whispering something, though he couldn't make it out. Once she secured the items, she quickly returned to her car and closed the door. Keanu started his engine and departed the lot, experiencing both relief and frustration. He had accomplished something, yet it still seemed inadequate. On the third day, Keanu returned to the lot. He knew he needed another conversation with her, but this time with greater sensitivity. Observing from a distance, he watched the woman pushing carts again, her face marked by fatigue. He waited until she neared her car before approaching. "Hi," he began, his voice soft, nearly a murmur. She stopped, startled and visibly uneasy. "I'm the person who left the water and blanket yesterday. I hope that didn't make you uncomfortable." The woman studied him, the same weary expression from before present, but with a hint of curiosity. Why?" The question emerged quickly, almost accusatory. "I noticed you here yesterday and thought you might need them." "That's all," Keanu responded with a shrug. He understood that in situations like this, excessive pressure could backfire. "I respect if you don't want to speak with me. I don't wish to intrude on your space." She remained quiet briefly before responding, "Thank you for the water and blanket." Her words were careful, as if each syllable carried the burden of fear, afraid of revealing too much. Keanu nodded, respecting her rhythm. "I simply want to help if you'll allow me. And if you won't, that's acceptable too. But sometimes accepting assistance isn't weakness, it's just a method to move ahead." The woman didn't respond directly, but Keanu noticed a slight easing in her stance. She still seemed hesitant, but the brief appreciation was progress. He chose not to pressure her further. Keanu was about to head back to his car when a sound captured his attention, the muffled cry of a baby from inside the vehicle. He paused and looked her way, but didn't pose questions. The sound appeared to disturb the woman, who hurriedly opened the car door and began soothing the baby in her arms. He hesitated momentarily before speaking. "Do you need anything for him? Formula, diapers, anything he might require?" The woman looked at him, her eyes gleaming with exhaustion. Her initial impulse was to decline, but Keanu noticed something change in her expression. The mother, perpetually battling an internal struggle between her pride and her desire to protect her child, was losing that fight. I need milk," she finally said, her voice nearly inaudible. Keanu nodded, sensing that this small gesture of acceptance represented a significant breakthrough. "Wait here, I'll return in a few minutes." Without awaiting a response, he headed toward the supermarket. When he returned with a bag of supplies: powdered milk, diapers, and a pack of wipes, the woman seemed more suspicious than ever, but accepted them. She murmured thanks, holding the items carefully as if they were the most precious things she'd ever received. As she adjusted the baby in the car, Keanu stood beside her. "I know it's not my concern, but if you need anything else, I'll be around." She hesitated before responding, They weren't meant to be this way." Her tone was low, almost a whisper, but Keanu could sense the profound pain in her words. That sentence was more than just a lament, it was a silent plea for help. Keanu knew then that this was merely the surface. The story behind this woman and her baby was about to alter his life, and he was prepared to face whatever lay ahead. The following day, Keanu returned to the lot. The scene was familiar, but something about the woman's demeanor seemed different. She was outside the car, holding the baby in her arms, gazing into the distance with an expression that blended exhaustion and resignation, he knew he needed to approach her carefully. "Hi," he said, maintaining respectful distance. The woman lifted her eyes, surprised but less defensive than before. "You returned," she replied, her voice carrying more curiosity than mistrust. Keanu offered a small smile. "I said I'd be around. I hope you didn't feel pressured yesterday." She shook her head slowly. "No, it was generous of you." He realized it was the right moment to try something more. "May I sit?" he asked, gesturing to the curb near her car. She hesitated but nodded. Keanu sat, resting his arms on his knees and allowing brief silence to settle before speaking again. "You don't have to share anything that makes you uncomfortable, but may I ask your name?" The woman looked at him momentarily before answering. "Emily." "Nice to meet you, Emily," he said genuinely. "And the little one, what's his name?" She glanced down at the baby, who now appeared calmer. "Oliver," Keanu smiled. "Oliver is a strong name. I like it." The compliment seemed to melt something in Emily. She relaxed slightly, though still maintained a cautious posture. Keanu knew he shouldn't rush her, so he decided to share something personal. "You know, I've experienced some difficult things too," he began, keeping his voice gentle. "I've lost people who meant everything to me. There were times I didn't think I could continue, but somehow I did. It wasn't easy, but I had help. And sometimes accepting help is what saves us." Emily listened silently, her eyes fixed on the baby. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Sometimes it feels like I'm alone in the world. And no one cares." Keanu shook his head slowly. "I care," he said firmly. "And I know we don't know each other, but I want to help if you'll let me." She didn't respond immediately, but something in her expression seemed more open, more vulnerable. Later that night, while Emily slept in the car with Oliver in her arms, Keanu returned quietly to the lot. He carried bags filled with baby food, hygiene items, and toys. Carefully, he placed everything by the car door, along with a handwritten note. "For Emily and Oliver, no strings attached. Just care." The next morning, when Emily woke and discovered the items, her emotions were conflicted. She held the toys in her hands, her eyes filling with tears. It was a simple gesture, yet it carried so much meaning. Part of her wanted to reject everything to maintain the control she still felt she possessed. But another part of her knew this was exactly what she needed. She looked around, but Keanu was already gone. Yet something inside her had begun to shift. The following day, Emily decided to speak with Keanu. When he appeared in the lot, she called out to him before he could approach. "Thank you," she said, holding one of the bags he'd left. "This means a great deal." Keanu smiled. "I'm glad it helped. And if you need anything else, just let me know." Emily hesitated momentarily before speaking again. I don't usually talk about this, but..." She took a deep breath, as if gathering courage to continue. "I lost everything, my husband, my home, my life. And what happened after, it's still hard to believe." Keanu looked into her eyes, his face serious but full of empathy. He knew she was on the verge of revealing something important, something that would be the next step in rebuilding her trust. "You don't have to rush," he said. "I'll be here whenever you're ready." Emily swallowed hard and nodded. For the first time in a long while, she felt like someone was truly willing to listen. As Emily looked at Keanu, her eyes brimming with emotion, she finally released it all. "It all began when he died, my husband. After that, everything collapsed. And then something happened. Something no one would believe." Keanu leaned forward slightly, his expression calm but intensely focused. He knew her story was just beginning and that it would be deeper and more painful than he had imagined. Emily took a deep breath, clutching Oliver tightly against her chest. Her gaze drifted into the distance as if she were diving into memories she had struggled to keep buried. "It all began a year ago," she started, her voice trembling. "My husband Liam died in a car accident. He was coming home from work, just a regular night, or at least it should have been." Keanu remained silent, giving her space to continue. Emily wiped away a stubborn tear that rolled down her cheek. "When the police knocked on my door, it felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. I couldn't even process it at the time. I just remember the officer saying he didn't suffer, but that didn't matter. He was just gone. She paused, her lips quivering as she struggled to maintain control. After that, everything turned upside down. The life insurance didn't cover enough. The bills started accumulating, and Liam's parents. She stopped, gritting her teeth. They said I wasn't capable of caring for Oliver. Keanu's brow furrowed. They tried to take your son, Emily nodded slowly. They filed for custody, claiming I was emotionally unstable. And maybe they were right. I was a mess. But everything I did was for Oliver. I couldn't afford a decent lawyer, so when I realized things were turning against me, I packed up my car, took what remained of my savings, and fled to another state. I thought it would be temporary, that I'd find work and get back on my feet. Emily continued, her voice filled with bitterness. I found a job at a cafe. I started saving money, and for a while it felt like I was making progress. But then a customer started harassing me. He'd say disgusting things, and one day I snapped and yelled at him. I tried explaining to the manager, but he didn't care and fired me. Keanu closed his eyes briefly, feeling a knot in his stomach. He could see the pain in Emily's eyes, each word revealing the weight she carried. With the money running out, I got evicted. The car became our home. I tried looking for work, but it was hard with Oliver always with me. No one wanted to hire a mother who they said wasn't dedicated enough. Since then, I've been living like this every day, just trying to survive, picking up odd jobs, pushing carts, hoping no one notices we're living here. She finally stopped, her eyes filled with tears. And I know it's wrong, he deserves more. I should be doing better, but I'm just so tired. Keanu felt his chest tighten as he listened. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Emily, he began, carefully choosing his words, you're fighting a battle no one should have to face alone. And no one can blame you for that. She lifted her eyes to meet his, disbelief evident in her expression. But I should have figured it out. I should have. You're trying, Keanu interrupted gently. That's more than many people would do. You're fighting for Oliver every single day, and that's something incredible. Emily stayed silent, letting his words sink in. Finally, she murmured, What do I do now? I'm at the end of my rope. Keanu looked directly at her, his determination clear. We'll figure it out together, I promise. Wait, here, I'll be back in 20 minutes. Before she could respond, Keanu stood and walked toward his car. He had a plan, and he was determined to change Emily and Oliver's lives forever. As Keanu drove away from the lot, Emily watched him in the rearview mirror, her heart torn between hope and fear. She wanted to believe he could help her, but life had taught her not to trust so easily. Inside his car, Keanu grabbed his phone and started making calls. He knew he needed to act quickly. Whatever came next would be the first step toward transforming Emily's situation and giving her the fresh start she so desperately needed. 40 minutes later, Keanu parked back at the supermarket, his car engine still running. Emily, sitting in the old car with Oliver, raised her head at the sound. Her eyes held skepticism. But there was also a spark of curiosity. Keanu stepped out of his car and walked toward her, holding a small envelope in his hand. He stopped at respectful distance and raised the envelope. I got a room for you and Oliver. It's a simple motel, but it's clean and safe. You can rest there tonight, and tomorrow we'll figure out the next step. Emily stepped out of her car, holding Oliver tightly to her chest. Her eyes shifted between the envelope and Keanu's face, clearly conflicted. I can't accept this. I don't want charity. This isn't charity, Keanu replied, his voice firm yet gentle. It's help. We all need help sometimes. Please let me do this for you. She hesitated, the weight of exhaustion evident in her posture. Finally, she extended her hand and took the envelope. Inside, she found a room key, a note with the motel's address, and some cash for food. She swallowed hard, feeling a mix of relief and shame. Thank you, she said at last, her voice barely audible. Keanu smiled. You're welcome. I'll drive behind. You to make sure you get there safely. The motel room was simple, but to Emily it felt like luxury. There was a large bed, clean sheets, and a small private bathroom. The soft yellow glow of the bedside lamp created a cozy atmosphere. She gently laid Oliver on the bed and tucked him in carefully. For the first time in weeks, he seemed to sleep deeply, free from the noise and discomfort of the car. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes welling with tears as she looked at her son. The tears began to fall uncontrollably. It was the first time in a long while that she felt a semblance of safety, a glimmer of hope. She glanced at the note that came with the key. The simple words written by Keanu echoed in her mind. "You're not alone? We're in this together?" Outside, Keanu stayed in his car for a few minutes after dropping Emily off at the motel. He gazed at the night sky, the stars faintly shining against the backdrop of the city. His mind raced with thoughts. He reflected on how Emily's life had reached this point, the injustices she had faced, the daily struggles, and above all, what he could do to truly help her rebuild her life. He knew that offering a comfortable night or a bit of money wasn't enough. She needed something bigger, something that would give her and Oliver a chance at a dignified new beginning. Picking up his phone, he began making more calls. He had resources and connections, and he was determined to use them. "We're going to start something big," he murmured to himself as he typed a message to a close friend, explaining the situation. "No one deserves to go through this alone." Inside the room, Emily tucked Oliver into bed and, for the first time in months, lay down on a real mattress. Exhaustion quickly took over her body, but before falling asleep, she whispered to herself, "Maybe, just maybe, this is a beginning." Meanwhile, outside, Keanu finished an important call and looked at the lit motel in the distance. A determined smile spread across his face. He knew the next step would be crucial and that he was just beginning his mission to give Emily and Oliver the life they deserved. The next morning, Keanu woke early, ready to put his plan into action. He had spent the night contacting friends, activating connections, and brainstorming practical solutions to help Emily and Oliver. To him, this wasn't charity. It was about giving her the opportunities she needed to rebuild her life. His first stop was a community center he had supported in the past. Speaking with the director, he explained Emily's situation. She needs temporary housing, social assistance, and if possible, a job. She's a fighter, but she's trapped in a cycle that's hard to break. The director nodded in understanding. "We can arrange temporary housing for a few weeks and connect her with social workers. We can also refer her to some job opportunities." Keanu thanked her sincerely, and before leaving, he made a significant donation to the center. He knew Emily's help was the priority, but he wanted to ensure others in similar situations could benefit too. Later that afternoon, Keanu returned to the motel. Emily was sitting on the bed with Oliver in her arms when she heard a soft knock at the door. When she opened it, she found Keanu standing there with a warm smile and a few shopping bags in hand. "I brought something for you," he said, handing her the bags. Inside were new clothes for her and Oliver, along with a basic hygiene kit. Emily looked at him, clearly moved. "I don't know how to thank you. You've already done so much." Keanu shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. But if you're ready, I'd like to talk about the next step." She nodded and invited him in. While Oliver played with one of the toys Keanu had left in the car days earlier, Emily sat and listened intently as he explained what he had planned. "I found a place for you and Oliver to stay for a few weeks while we organize everything else. It's temporary housing, but safe, and there are people there who can help. Also, I've spoken to some contacts about job opportunities. It all depends on what you're comfortable doing." Emily blinked, stunned. It was hard to believe someone was investing so much in her and Oliver. "Why are you doing this for us?" she asked, her voice trembling. Keanu paused to think before answering. "Because I believe everyone deserves a chance to start over. And because I can. If I have the resources to help, it would be wrong not to use them." Keanu accompanied Emily to the community center where the director greeted them warmly. The place was simple but welcoming, with clean rooms and a common area for families in need. Emily was shown to a small room with a bed for her and a crib for Oliver. As Emily looked around, taking in the space, Keanu noticed tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't know how to express what this means to me," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't even know if I'll ever be able to repay you." Keanu smiled. Don't worry about that right now. Focus on you and Oliver. And remember, this isn't charity. It's the beginning of a new chapter. That night, as Emily put Oliver to sleep in his new crib, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. Outside, Keanu spoke with the director of the community center, arranging the next steps. I want to make sure she gets all the support she needs, he said. And if she needs more time or other opportunities, please let me know, the director smiled. Don't worry. You've given her something no one else has until now, a chance. As Keanu left the center, he glanced back at the lit building and murmured to himself, now she has a starting point. But there's still so much more to do. Weeks went by, and Emily began to settle into a new routine. With the support of the community center and Keanu's connections, she secured a part-time job as a receptionist at a small office. It wasn't just a source of income, it was her first step toward regaining her confidence. On her first day, Keanu walked her to the office door. This is just the beginning, he said with a reassuring smile. You're going to do great. Emily entered nervously but was welcomed by warm colleagues and a patient manager who understood her situation. As the days passed, she grew more comfortable, receiving small compliments for her efficiency and kindness. She came home each evening exhausted, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was in control of her life. Later that evening, Emily shared the encounter with Keanu. He listened carefully as she explained her decision to allow her in-laws to visit Oliver on her terms. You made a difficult but brave choice, Keanu said. Giving them the chance shows how much you've grown. You're in control now. Emily smiled, feeling more secure than ever. As she watched Oliver playing on the carpet in their small apartment, she knew she was building a future full of possibilities, a future where she was no longer alone. One day, as they sat in a local cafe sharing coffee and small talk, Emily looked at Keanu with a smile that carried equal parts gratitude and determination. I want you to know that one day I'm going to pay back everything you've done for me. Keanu smiled, shaking his head. Emily, you're already paying it back. Every step you take to improve your life and Oliver's is more than enough. I never did any of this expecting something in return. Her smile widened, though her eyes remained serious. Even so, I want to help others one day, just like you helped me. Keanu nodded. That's the best way to pay it forward, turning your story into an inspiration for others. That night, as Keanu said his goodbyes and drove home, he glanced up at the starry sky. He knew he hadn't just helped Emily change her life. She had changed his as well. He felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for what they had accomplished together. Emily, in her apartment, tucked Oliver into bed and watched him sleep peacefully. She knew the future would still bring challenges, but for the first time, she felt ready to face them with courage and hope. Her story was far from over, but the next chapter already seemed promising, and as they both moved forward with their lives, they carried with them the certainty that even in the darkest moments, there is always light, often from the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore more stories of hope, compassion, and resilience.